Hello, does it work? Yeah. Okay. Hello, everybody. May I ask all speakers for the session to take a seat, please? Sorry for the delay. I know it's lunch, but right then. Let me welcome you to this event. Energy transitions across the Mediterranean, enabling infrastructure for a sustainable future. My name is Anke Schönlau. I work at the IRENA Secretariat, and I'm very happy that you're here today, that so many people were interested in being in this event, in exchanging about this very important topic for us. And I would like to hand over with no further ado to Roland Rösch, Director of the Innovation and Technology Center at IRENA, for the opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anke. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I welcome you here to the pre-assembly day of IRENA on this very interesting topic of energy transition across the Mediterranean, enabling infrastructure for a sustainable future, a topic where IRENA is working several years on, and especially very intensively during the last year throughout 2024. That was a very important topic, the Information and Technology Center. It's a distinct honor to address you the pre-assembly day of IRENA's 15th annual gathering. Especially over the past years, IRENA has intensified its work, as I said, on the energy transition in the Mediterranean. This region is at the crossroads of Africa, Europe, and the Middle East, holds significant renewable potential to transform the region's entire energy system and create sustainable growth for millions of people in the Mediterranean. The significance of this event is evident from a number of distinguished speakers joining us today. We are very delighted to see important cooperation partners of IRENA and the regional actors being represented here in this event. Over the past year, IRENA has jointly, together with our friends from the OECD, been working for the European Commission on analyzing the cooperation opportunities in the region for renewable energy, clean tech manufacturing, and the diversification of clean tech manufacturing, which is very important, but also on financing requirements in support of the European Commission Trans-Mediterranean Energy and Clean Tech Cooperation Initiative. Our analysis builds on modeling also applied in the African Union's Continental Master Sector Plan, for which IRENA provided modeling support and capacity building to the African institutions, specifically to African Union and Outer NEPAD. I'm thus particularly delighted to welcome Mr. Rashid Ali Abdallah, Executive Director of the Africa Energy Commission, and also Lukasz Kulinski, Director of the Green Energy Transition and Energy System Integration of the European Commission's from DG Energy in this event. As important milestone of last year for cooperation on the Mediterranean, I would like to mention the Thessaloniki Declaration, the outcome of the MENA Europe Future Dialogue, which called on increasing joint efforts to accelerate the development of infrastructure and cooperation for green electricity, but also for green hydrogen. I'm thus very glad to welcome Stefan Wenzel, the State Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action in Germany, as keynote speaker, and also Ambassador Alexandridis of Greece in the roundtable. At the beginning of 2025, I'm very delighted to welcome Tina Zersen, State Secretary of Energy in the Ministry of the Environment, Climate Energy of Slovenia. Among the keynote speakers here, Slovenia has taken over the EU Med9 presidency in 2025 to continue fostering cooperation among Mediterranean states on sustainable energy. I would also like to warmly welcome all our distinguished roundtable speakers representing regional governments, think tanks, the private sector, international organization and financing institutions. Many initiatives are active in this region, working every day on enhancing the cooperation and collaboration, such as the MedGem network, or on pledging ambitious goals to the region, such as the TerraMed campaign and its 1 terawatt call to action. IRENA's analysis that we have carried out in the last years is that the Mediterranean, North African countries alone hold over 2,300 gigawatts in solar and wind capacity. This is already refined screening through a lens of realism, considering the possibility to actually implement projects on those sites based on performance, access distance to infrastructure, and access to water. We are thus nearing a more realistic potential here that will still largely exceed the local demand projections. IRENA estimates that the cost for implementing such a renewable powered system in the Mediterranean would amount at around 1 trillion US dollar by 2050, but also doors to potential new revenue streams to the region. That way, the region would be able to power many winds for many stakeholders. First, building on progressively falling renewable power generation costs, North Africa would be able to produce green hydrogen by 2050 in a very competitive way at around 1.5 US dollar per kilogram for domestic and also potentially international consumption, thereby both boosting local economy and decarbonization abroad. Second, by almost entirely decarbonizing the power sector, it could help reducing the region's greenhouse gas emissions by almost half in 2050 through this collaboration between the European Union and the North African region. Third, deeper market integration could help to bring down wholesale electricity prices in the long term, which could also have distinctive effects on consumers. In 2023, the global community pledged in the UAE COP28, related to the UAE COP28 consensus, to build 3 times renewable capacity until 2030. We have only 5 years left from now on to reach this significant goal. What is needed now is more joint effort and coordination, collaboration, and not let go such significant opportunities as held in the Mediterranean region, where collaboration and interconnections and hydrogen trade could be a very good start to achieve this goal of tripling renewables from the UAE consensus. IRENA is thus very proud bringing together initiatives of the region and supporting the enhanced cooperation amongst the actors in the region. I stop here and would like to encourage all of you today to use this opportunity to connect, to discuss, and realize the potential of coordinated efforts that you can actively take this forward from this initial discussion here. Thank you very much. I would like now to hand over to Anke again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roland. We're gonna now start with our keynotes, but first I would like to introduce you to your moderator today. That is Norella Constantinescu, our Deputy Director at IRENA Innovation Technology Center, and you will be in her hands from now on.
Thank you, Anke. And because we are a little bit behind the schedule, and I know that I have one intervenant which has to leave sharply, so I will move directly forward. And we have a big competition with the lunch, I suppose. For this session, but anyhow, I would like to hear maybe exchanges more lively around the table, and I will start with addressing first Mr. Rashid Ali Abdallah, Executive Director of Africa Energy Commission. And Mr. Abdallah, if you so you heard about Roland setting introductory speech. If you can highlight the key challenges for infrastructure development and financing in North Africa, but also in general on the African continent, and what instruments you see that are needed. And you can speak from the stage or from the table as you wish.
I think here is better. First of all, Excellency, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, all observe. Uh, on behalf of African Union Energy Commission, to discussion, and especially in this very important topic. Let me concentrate in the regions that I'm familiar with. First of all, let us just mention general facts about North Africa. First of all, in terms of the energy production and consumption, the North Africa region represents more than 25% of Africa total energy supply and consumption. Over the years, these regions has played leading role in advancing access to the modern energy service in the continent. And this reflected in the current access level where most of the members have attained universal access. The second part about the share of renewable energy. The uptake of renewable energy sources in the region has remained low relative to the immense technical potential of solar, wind, and energy, which it is at 2,800 gigawatt and 220 gigawatt respectively for solar and wind. This potential is hung only 1% land mass coverage, thus possible of extension of the same. Currently, more than 90% of the final energy consumption in the region is from fossil fuel, which is equivalent to 1.5% of the world emission, thus presenting opportunity for decarbonization. The third is about the investment. Currently, is checked by inadequate infrastructure development, mainly due to the limited financing. Investment in clean energy projects in Africa remain marginal at 2% of the global total expenditure. In the North Africa region, investment are below to the 3 billion, with the even distributed across the other challenge include unharmonized policy, achievement of the region. The region is home of or hosts the largest PV project, which is in Egypt, and also they have remarkable achievements in solar energy in Morocco, and also the region also is in on very the chat. See, so this policy include African single electricity market system in continental CNP. We also in the African level, we are developing African energy transition strategy action plan that express the need for African leadership ownership in the energy transition paradigm. Emphasis on the exploitation and purification of the Africa critical mineral and resources to support the transition. This to accompanied by capacity building to undertake the energy transition and creating conceived policies, legal regularity, institution, and financial enablers that will support achievement of African energy transition. Again, continental integration for virtual learning across the continent. Question: how to enable South Africa this Mediterranean region with this vision? Specifically, they position the regions to seize the energy opportunity by first adopting enable policy and regulatory framework to, among others, encouraging the private sector investment in both renewable energy projects and infrastructure while guaranteeing affordability of energy supply service. Second, prioritize energy sector reform and develop attractive physical and financial incentive for infrastructure development. Third, design structural energy procurement projects like bankable energy projects through suitable de-risking instruments and affordable debt. Fourth, developing local value chain for beneficiation of critical mineral and development of renewable energy technology. Uh, Lastly, developing a skilled workforce capable of designing, building, installing, maintaining, decommissioning energy. In addition, for storing the transition, such as joint energy planning.
Mr. Abdallah, for your introductory intervention and for highlighting actually the reality against potential as well as the needs and the developments taking place, especially in the North Africa. Now, from the southern side of Mediterranean, we go to the north side of the Mediterranean, and I'm pleased to invite Mrs. Tina Serson, State Secretary of Energy in the Ministry of Environment, Climate and Energy of Slovenia. And of course, you took over the MED9 presidency this year. I had the pleasure to be here under the Cyprus one last year in Larnaca. So your views on how actually this cooperation on the southern, on the north side of the Mediterranean, but also across the Mediterranean, can support the energy transition, both electricity but also other energy carriers.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a privilege to address you here today. I thank the organizers for the opportunity to be here with you and speak to you. The MED9 Energy Alliance was kicked off in Valletta almost 2 years ago, and with the Maltese presidency, then continued by Cypriotic presidency, and now this year Slovenia is taking over, as it was already mentioned in the introductory remarks of Roland. The MED9 countries are united in our shared vision of transforming the Mediterranean into a green energy hub. This green energy hub can serve as a global beacon for sustainable energy, economic growth, and climate resilience. During our presidency of the MED9, Slovenia wants to continue the work that Malta and Cyprus already started and contribute its share to this collective goal. The Mediterranean's exceptional solar and wind potential, already mentioned several times today, strategic geographic position, and of course hydrogen production potential enables us to be at the forefront of the global energy transition, while at the same time also ensuring benefits for our people and people living in broader region. So our task is clear on this. We have to harness this potential and establish the Mediterranean as an important energy hub for clean transition. With renewable energy costs projected to fall significantly in the next years and also beyond 2030, we must now act swiftly and decisively to really secure the right kind of investments and especially implement the infrastructure that will bridge this gap between aspiration and achievement. Slovenia will, in its presiding role, remain committed, of course, to fostering deeper cooperation among the countries involved, and especially between southern and northern Mediterranean partners. The focus will be put on improving regions' energy connectivity, cross-border regional projects, and, of course, ensuring the competitiveness of our economy. We plan to have a high-level ministerial meeting dedicated to these three topics at the end of May, to put the political weight behind our coordination. Looking ahead, our roadmap must focus on the following priorities. First of all, accelerating infrastructure development, streamlining financing mechanisms, enhancing regional planning, and leveraging multilateral cooperation. But let me also echo what the executive director said on, let us not forget that we also need a skilled workforce to get to where we want to come. Only by working together, we can transform the Mediterranean into this green energy hub that we all wish to happen. In this endeavor, I believe that the support from stakeholders such as IRENA especially and the European Commission will be needed to fully utilize this potential. IRENA can be of significant help due to its knowledge and capacity building know-how. So we count on IRENA also to join us in May. Our collective action will not only contribute to energy security in the broader region, but will also enhance economic competitiveness, and it will reaffirm our commitment to combating climate change for generations to come. So let us seize this moment to unlock the Mediterranean's vast renewable energy potential and build a future defined by sustainability, prosperity, and unity in the broader region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sersen, for underlying actually the ambition of Mediterranean as an energy hub. It was actually, the place from where the civilization started. So I think, it's important to underline your presidency of MED9 priorities, and of course establishing the political framework like the steering committee, which was, I think, discussed, which will enable that support. And of course, as IRENA, we will provide you with support together with the European Commission. Now I turn to my right, and I would like to invite Mr. Stefan Wenzel, State Secretary of Federal Minister of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, Germany. You provided the insights about grids and storage in the session before, but now let's go towards what you see in terms of energy corridors, infrastructures, and interconnected projects in the region, of course, linked to the European, and how the investments can be facilitated. And you can choose to stay here. It's true, it's an echo, but or go there.
So I choose to stay here and have not to change places. Thank you very much for your kindly introduction. Thank you very much, Tina and Rashid, for your arguments and your informations. Distinguished excellencies, it's a pleasure to be here and to discuss these important points together. First, I like to express my sincere gratitude to the IRENA for hosting this important event on the energy transition across the Mediterranean, and I'm truly honored to be here. And strengthening the regional cooperation between the southern Mediterranean and the EU has never been more essential to achieving our shared energy and climate goals. 2 weeks after the beginning of the aggressive Russian war against Ukraine, we had a meeting of the European presidents and prime ministers in Versailles in Paris, and they launched the REPowerEU plan in March 22. And one part of the REPowerEU plan was to strengthen the interconnectors with our neighbors. And our neighbors also in North Africa and the whole MENA region. And we experienced that it was in this strange time very, very important to have partners, to have a good cooperation with your neighbors. You have partners all over the world, and therefore to build. We all recognize the need to transform our energy system to meet the requirements of climate protection, but also for energy security. And while at the same time ensuring a secure and reliable energy supply for the citizens of our countries. And achieving these goals is easier together than individually. We are therefore convinced that strengthening partnerships between Europe and the MENA region is essential. Strengthening this cooperation in practice means strengthening cross-border electricity and hydrogen pipeline networks. Infrastructure, the focus of today's event, is key for this transformation. Without robust physical connections within and across regions, neither green electrons nor molecules can flow. To foster energy cooperation between the MENA region and Europe, Germany organized the first MENA-Europe Future Energy Dialogue, shortly MEFID, in 2022, together with Jordan. This forum brought together decision makers from politics, businesses, and research to advance energy collaboration. Building on that success, Germany and Greece co-hosted the MEFID 2024 in September last year, a landmark effect in furthering Europe-MENA energy cooperation. The Thessaloniki Declaration endorsed during the dialogue underscored our shared commitment to development critical infrastructure for green electricity and hydrogen trade. And that's also a part of the Repower EU plan to build connections to the south, to the southwest, to the southeast. Germany, for its part, will remain an importer of energy as it progresses on the pathway toward climate neutrality by 2045. In the moment, we think maybe we can produce a third of the hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives we can produce in Germany, and we're planning to import 2/3 of the amount. Strengthening connections between the EU and MENA is therefore a top priority for Germany. Increased interconnection within the Mediterranean region is a clear no-regret option. The region's close geographical proximity and vast renewable energy potential make it uniquely suited for such integration. Regional energy cooperation can accelerate local energy transition, generate significant revenues from green energy trade, and create future-proof jobs. By developing interconnections between the EU and the MENA countries, we can enable both regions to incorporate higher shares of renewable energy and benefit from a more resilient energy system. Enhanced interconnections are strategically vital. They will enable renewable energy trade, provide the flexibility needed to manage renewable energy variability, and ensure a secure supply of electricity and hydrogen. However, key challenges will remain. To bring these ambitious projects to life, we must address critical enabling conditions. Strengthening strategic partnerships between Europe and the MENA region is essential. We need to build institutional capacity, mobilize investment, and create the necessary frameworks to attract private capital for financing energy infrastructure projects. These large-scale complex initiatives can only succeed through coordinated public-private collaboration where all stakeholders from governments to financial institutions and business work together toward a shared vision. Today's event serves as an important continuation of the discussion we began at MEFID. While we are seeing some progress in infrastructure development across our regions, much more needs to be done. The development of large-scale cross-border projects require time, extensive planning, and significant investment. I'm confident that together we will lay a strong foundation on a collaborative roadmap to unlock the Mediterranean's renewable energy potential and accelerate the development of the infrastructure we need to deliver the energy transition in our regions. And we see very interesting prices. For example, in VAE, they had recently a PPA for 1.5 cent per kilowatt hour. And even in Portugal, they had the option to produce electricity 1.5 cent per kilowatt hour. And that's very competitive prices and also a big economic chance for the MENA region. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Much, Mr. Wenzel, for bringing this perspective, EU, but also MEFID, MENA cooperation, and underlining a few enabling elements, as well as how we look actually into finding the key elements and the infrastructures which will optimize actually across the prices, across the costs as well, so to find the right locations. And by building up actually with what you start, the Repower EU, so this important piece of legislation proposed by the European Commission, I will turn now to the representative of Green Transition and Energy System Integration Directorate from DG Energy, European Commission. Mathieu, I don't know your family name, but you had to replace on the spot Lukas Kolinski. So if you can give an view on what it was mentioned before, so the energy security of supply, competitiveness, as mentioned by Mr. Wenzel, and how you see this cooperation role across Mediterranean in order to create a win-win situation for Europe, but also for Africa.
Norella, apologies for Cash, actually had to leave. Distinguished excellencies, the Mediterranean region indeed is very important from the perspective of the European Union, politically and economically. Since December, the European Commission has a commissioner dedicated to the Mediterranean. This is the expression of political will to deepen cooperation between the EU and the Mediterranean region. There is no doubt in our minds that the energy transition can enhance the region's prosperity, security, and stability, and deepen the energy market integration. While North Africa's solar resources are ranked among the best globally, the region is currently heavily reliant on fossil fuels and has a growing energy demand. So the transition requires attracting much more private investment in generation, but also in modern grid infrastructure. It also requires bold reforms, which will develop integrated market-based electricity systems. Ramping up renewable-based electricity supply will also allow to develop hydrogen projects, which will fuel the decarbonization in what we call hard-to-abate sectors like the industry and transport. Now, let me zoom in on a key aspect for fostering the development of renewables, the energy interconnections, and this is directly related to what you mentioned, Norella, about optimization indeed. So in order to exploit the potential, the national transmission and distribution grids in the countries of the region need better integration, modernization, and digitalization in order to ensure good functioning of the system based on variable renewables, and in order to keep the system costs in check. From the start, energy storage, demand-side solutions that are necessary for the flexibility of the system should also be in the focus. So it's also a matter of system planning. Interconnectors with Europe will also play an important role in the region in the future. Since the energy transition is steaming ahead in the EU and transforming our energy landscape, it's robust planning and a needs assessment, which will allow us to identify the right projects for new or for reinforced modernized grids. In the EU, through what we call our 10 years network development plan, we're able to identify key projects. And in this case, we will be able to identify key projects to connect the EU and South Mediterranean countries. There is a special category of project of mutual interest, through which we can identify and prioritize cross-border infrastructure. So projects with third countries which are beneficial to the EU and to our neighbors. That designation of project of mutual interest does not only mean that there are good grounds for the project to develop in the future, but through the label, project promoters receive political endorsement and recognition. So it helps attract funding, it helps foster collaboration. So that designation is a key tool to accelerate the implementation of critical energy connectivity infrastructure. We already have some examples of electricity trans-Mediterranean interconnection projects, such as ELMED between Italy and Tunisia, the Euro-Asia Interconnector, Greece, Cyprus, Israel, which were selected and supported by the EU. In the new list of projects of common interest and projects of mutual interest from 2023 also includes the Greece-Egypt interconnector. So this is the methodology on our side to identify the key projects. But I would also like to briefly mention hydrogen, because the European Union is the only jurisdiction in the world to have a complete and comprehensive regulatory framework for renewable and low carbon hydrogen. Our member states are implementing it, and it should be in place across all jurisdictions. And why is it important? Because the legal provisions and the binding targets for the uptake of renewable hydrogen will create demand for domestic production of renewable and low carbon hydrogen and for imports. And the European Commission has identified the North African Hydrogen Corridor as one of Europe's key renewable hydrogen corridors. This priority was translated into our strategic infrastructure planning, resulting in hydrogen projects which have received support for their development. These are projects of outstanding ambition. The one called South H2 Corridor aims to transfer hydrogen from Northern Africa through Italy and Austria to Germany. Significant progress has been made on this project in recent period. We want to work together with EU member states and with other promoters to further develop the necessary hydrogen corridors between the EU and the In conclusion, there is high potential for deepened cooperation, and we are willing to work with our partners and realize it. And we're grateful for everyone's role in facilitating this discussion.
Thank you, Mathieu, for the highlights, both electricity-wise and hydrogen. As we have heard also from Mr. Wenzel, so we are, as European, I'm sorry, I should not take that position. So Europe is looking at producing itself, but also at importing hydrogen, and also this exchange for the system optimization across the Mediterranean. Now I will move to the panel. As we have many speakers, I will really ask you, because it's really late, to keep to 2 minutes, and I will divide the discussion in 3 areas. First, we will focus on the infrastructure requirements. I will start with you, Angelo Ferrante, Secretary General of MET TSO, and I would like you to react to what you hear from Mr. Abdallah on North African developments, as well as European Commission, but also MEFED and MED9 priorities. So infrastructure and focus on reaction to the key panelists.
Thanks, Norella. Thanks again for inviting me to this panel and this event. From the previous panel, we understood that the grid is essential for the development, for the achievement of the energy transition. This is true everywhere, but that's particularly true in the Mediterranean context that's characterized by a quite unstable environment for investors because of the market fragmentation, of the lack of long-term price signals, and asymmetries in the legislative and regulatory frameworks of the various countries, the non-European countries. So the solution for achieving the energy transition in the Mediterranean for us as an association of TSOs is regional integration, where in terms of regional integration, I mean the integration of the power system, which is the driver for achieving the energy transition. regional integration is very often neglected because the countries tend to develop national solutions and forgetting the importance of interconnection in all sense, not only in the physical sense. And experience has proven that when you use this approach, your decarbonization plans fail or at least slow down. So regional integration means that we need regional solutions. Regional solutions, if we look at what the Mediterranean countries may have as a reference, as a benchmark, that's the internal energy market of the European Union, we see that the main three pillars of this market are the development, the long-term harmonized development plans for infrastructure, a sound framework that harmonizes the national regulatory differences, and a sound financing mechanism for investments. And all these three aspects are missing in the Mediterranean, at least for the non-European countries. In terms of national of development plans, we as an association are proposing an approach to study interconnection projects. Our approach is that integration is mostly devoted to the achievement of the energy transition in the region. That means creation of a regional market. So the primary objective of the energy transition for the Mediterranean is to achieve the energy transition for the countries. And this means that also in terms of grid development, we cannot focus only on a few profitable projects that might be of interest of private investors, but we should foster for the creation of all the necessary infrastructure for the implementation of the market. And this means not only north-south interconnections, but also south-south interconnections, which are less profitable and where it is necessary to put in place sound financial mechanisms to overcome the financial weakness of many countries. From the regulatory point of view, again, we miss a general framework. We have bilateral initiatives. What is necessary is, if we really want to have an integrated system, is to find a way to overcome the national differences and put in place a harmonized regulatory framework for the region as a whole. I stop here because I think that we have not too much time to develop on these topics.
Thank you, Angelo, for bringing actually this regional perspective, which of course it's still some time probably to develop, both from regulatory perspective, from the planning. But we have heard, so I don't know if Europe is an example. We have the 10-year network development plan, so and other common developments which we achieved at the European level. So with the internal energy market. So this is the place where we should discuss how we move forward also across Mediterranean towards Africa. Now I turn to Egypt. If Director of Energy Research and Studies, Ministry of Electricity and Renewables, Mr. Ali Mohammed. It's there?
Yes, here.
Sorry, you are on that side. So we have heard that actually Egypt, it's actually moving forward. It's a huge potential for the renewables, and you have also a quite important strategy, 40% rise by 2035. We have heard about interconnectors. Of course, we aim towards northern of Mediterranean, but also south-south. So, which it's your view on that, and what Egypt is doing in from this perspective? 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. I have at least 10 people that I was make them brief and comment. In fact, regarding the strategy of Egypt, we already discussed different scenarios under this strategy. We started with 20% renewable energy generation in 2020. already achieved this target in the first place. But when we developed it further in cooperation with our partners like European Union and other partners, G targeted 40% by 2030 and by 2035, but it's updated. The goal now is 40%, 42% by 2030, and an update is going on for having at least 60% of energy generated from renewable energies is part of our energy system. In fact, our strategy depends on four main elements. One of them is the diversification of the energy resources that be utilized to have renewable energy power projects in Egypt. Also improving energy efficiency and modernizing our grids. One main core element of our strategy is expanding the electricity interconnection with neighbor countries. In fact, Egypt has good interconnections with our neighboring countries. We have an interconnection with Libya from the west, and we have an interconnection with Sudan from the south, and we have interconnection with is going into ongoing interconnection with Saudi Arabia. About 3,000 megawatts are undergoing a project, and also with Jordan. In fact, the Arab regional electricity market agreements has been signed early December 2024. The initial market in the region is expected to or decided to be between Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. Also, from the point of view of interconnecting Egypt to Europe, we have strategic talks with Italy and also with Greece to have these interconnections across the Mediterranean to export the energy generated from renewables to Europe. I also would like to mention that we have already now new renewable energy projects that will be commissioning in this year by August 2025, at least 300 megawatts for Abydos project will be coming online, and they will be combined with 300 megawatts of battery storage. Besides, another project for in the Gulf of Suez, about 500 megawatts will be installed in the same year. I think our strategy and our developments in interconnection is working well, and already we capitalized all these investments needed in the cooperation going with EBRD, because we have a strategy for replacing at least 5 gigawatts from fossil fuel power plants and convert them into renewable projects for at least 10 gigawatts. All these projects will serve the interconnections which is Egypt going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohamed. So I will turn now to the last intervention for this session, looking at finance, and I will invite afterwards the name. So meanwhile, please, we will run a kind of complete open table discussion. Raise your plate if you want to react on what you have heard. And for the rest of the speakers, we will have only 1 minute. But before that, I go to Mr. Yuval Laster, Head of Division of OECD Finance, Investment and Global Division. You are there. And you have heard the North Europe, the cross-Mediterranean, the North Mediterranean and cross-Mediterranean cooperation. We have heard also Egypt. How you react to what was mentioned in terms of projects and financing possibilities and options to ensure those investments?
Yes, thank you very much. So first I want to thank you for organizing this and inviting the OECD to participate in this important event. And of course, we share with all participants here the future view for cooperation around the Mediterranean and the EU. Given the short time frame that I have, I want to react based on two observations that we have working in the Mediterranean region with member countries and non-member countries in two areas. First on hydrogen with Egypt and also on electricity transmission grid. So in regarding to hydrogen and following our implementation of the framework for industry and net zero transition to identify policy and financing solution for hydrogen sector, and following the endorsement of the national hydrogen strategy, the government of Egypt has enacted tax incentives in green hydrogen incentive law and set up a single golden license process. These efforts have attracted numerous developers and investors, leading to 30 memoranda of understandings corresponding to hundreds of billions of dollars in investment. Yet, since hydrogen is a nascent risky market, there is still a gap to be filled in terms of maturing these memorandum of understanding and materials. For that, we identified key de-risking instruments for clean hydrogen and EMDs to help project reach final investment decision. And that includes contracts for difference, offtake guarantees, foreign currency guarantees, political risk insurance, contractors all risk insurance, and performance guarantees. Second, it is crucial to anticipate how electricity transmission distribution system evolve. Infrastructure projects typically take 5 to 15 years to complete, compared with 1 to 5 years for a new renewable project. A robust planning process is key to avoid delaying the entire transition. More private capital is needed for grid financing. However, limited physical space constrains public financing of transition grid infrastructure, while regulatory requirements and market design often prevent fully privatized grids. There is scope to enhance the strategic allocation of public capital and maintain public oversight while mobilizing private investments toward grids through innovative financing models and public-private partnerships, such as the independent transmission model. Thank you.
Thank you very much also for being brief. Please don't be shy and raise your plates. Otherwise, the panel remains just in statements. Thank you very much. And I apologize. So I will start first with, I don't see up to there. So, and the camera is on me. So please introduce yourself and make your reaction.
So thank you very much. Xavier Rousseau from SNAM. So I'm bringing a bit the molecule perspective on the table, the green molecule, actually the decarbonized molecule. As a promoter of one of the projects that's been mentioned before by the European Commission, the South H2 corridor, bringing hydrogen. This is, I think, it's a good example of collaboration among the countries. We are talking about 5 countries from Algeria, Tunisia, Italy, Austria, and Germany. So that's 5 countries set at the table, and that's something that need probably to further explore it for an example. I will also bring one ask or one challenge. Again, the element of the finance. I think it's crucial, especially when you have multiple countries involved. Some bring the cost, some bear the cost. Actually, some get the benefits of the low cost production of renewables. So I think it's important to understand there's a funding gap at the beginning when you have this long-term investment for molecule grids, so for pipes. This as a need for finding solution for bringing this capital on the market and bridging basically the initial part of the time where the investment needs to be there while the molecules are developed in the time. So I think that's one of the crucial points I want to underline. Thank you for the time.
Much, for underlining the financing aspects, which were actually provided with some key elements for the de-risking. But it's true, when we have these multiple countries involved, then this is becoming even more difficult to manage. I will go now next to the lady. And 1 minute, please, in order
Yes, of course.
to allow, because I still see one plate.
Yes, of course. It's Silvia Francescon from EcoClimate, which is an independent Italian think tank on climate and energy. We have been talking quite a lot about the relationship and also the export of renewables. We also see a lot of added value in keeping the renewables in the countries because this would allow, for example, to diversify the economy. Of course, let's think about Algeria, for example, and invest in not only on the exports, of course, of gas that we already have, but also building a new dimension, for example, manufacturing, and being capable, therefore, to diversify the economy. And would be extremely convenient to export gas in this very moment. At the same time, decarbonizing the domestic industry will avoid sanctions such as the CBAM, for example. On financing, we see a lot of connection between the objective of the Dubai Consensus and COP28 on tripling the renewables with the financing outcome of COP29, which of course has delivered on financing, but is not enough. And here we see a quite important role from the Gulf countries in creating perhaps also a pan-Arab countries platform and a possibility of financing from the Gulf countries. Very last point, we have been talking about, a lot of issues, but I think we need to also to have a bigger picture and vision, and also the architecture is important as an enabling factor. We need to create a fiscal space for countries to invest on renewables. And this is very much connected to the issue of debt, which is growing. Actually, it has doubled since 2015. And we think we need to include in these discussions also suspension or cancellation of debt. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I still see 2 plates, but I will stop here. 1 minute, please. I will start with the lady in front of me, my left-hand side.
Thank you very much, Caroline Steinbacher. I'm from Guidehouse. In the context of the method, the MENA Europe Future Energy Dialogue, we've looked at challenges and options related to the financing of energy infrastructure on the electricity side, but also on the hydrogen side. And I'd just like to select one challenge that we identified and that needs to be addressed, which is the problem of conflicting timelines and intertemporal cost allocation. So infrastructure projects have a very high upfront CapEx requirement, while network revenues, especially in the beginning, might be uncertain and low for those who receive them and prohibitively high for network users. So there's a very strong role for intertemporal cost allocation mechanisms, and therefore a strong role for public-private partnerships and also maybe bridging loans from development bank in this regard. So a final remark I'd like to make is that for the Mediterranean context, it might also be interesting to look at the experience of other regions like the North Sea or the Baltic Sea, where cooperation is also ongoing, to see of ideas that are being discussed there. For example, regional investment facilities could also be transferred to this European MENA challenges and opportunities of developing infrastructure.
Thank you for raising the issues, but also providing some solutions or examples to follow. I will turn to the lady here. I saw one, but you keep 1 minute. George, I will take you afterwards if possible.
Thank you. My name is Maria Camilleri Calleja. I'm the permanent representative of Malta to IRENA. Well, we definitely agree that the Mediterranean has potential as an energy hub, and that hinges on the development of critical infrastructure across the Mediterranean and cross-border energy corridors for renewable energy. In this context, international cooperation is a very important factor to establish an environment which is conducive to realize this on multiple levels. And in terms of international cooperation and regional integration, I also have the pleasure to add that yesterday Malta obtained the final approval from the Italian Ministry of Environment to develop a second interconnector with Italy, which will increase security of supply and growth of local renewable energy resources. I know that some people around the table would say, that's bilateral, but Malta is in the middle of the Mediterranean, and we speak to everyone and we cooperate with everyone. And there is definitely potential for regional cooperation.
Thank you very much, and also for insights regarding the interconnectors. Then I will turn to the gentleman there, and 1 minute, please.
Yep. Thank you.
Very close.
Thank you very much. My name is Huang Wei, Director for Planning, Information, Knowledge Management of International Atomic Energy Agency. Thank you for giving this last chance for me. And I just want to highlight one contribution we did in the past and also planning to do continuously in the future. That is, we have this capacity in energy planning. We have been supporting our member states over the past decades. And together with other counterparts, including IRENA, we have signed an MOU during the COP29 between two DGs, focusing on energy planning. And among this set of the analytical tools, agency actually contribute a lot of work to support countries on the ground, including these finance-related areas. We have this specific tool called FinPlan. It's a model for finance analysis for power sector expansion plan. This is a very unique tool we use for member states. So we plan to continue to do this in the future. Last year, we released our flagship publication called Climate Change under Nuclear Power. Even this is a focus on the financing of nuclear, but given this structure of cost of the renewable and nuclear, they have some commonality in terms of this cost structure. So we believe that the cases we reflect in this publication can be also referenced for countries who are scaling up their renewable capacity in the future. So this is something I want to highlight here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for highlighting also the planning and the capacity actually to leverage on IRENA setting. So I will move now to the second session, which is more focused on the hydrogen, so the molecules. Here, what I would like to see actually from the panelists, it's of course how we can bring what I mentioned before, a win-win situation in order to increase the energy security, but also to let actually the developments in the countries, as we have heard, to happen. I would like to start with Mr. Branislav Prelevic, President of MEDREG. So the question addressed to you, hydrogen derivatives, harmonization of regulatory frameworks. So what challenges do you see for this type of commodities? And of course, sometimes we want also to see the projects and the developments not up to 2050, but also, 2030. So what you will be your view on these elements?
Thank you, Ray. And just to be honest and say that previous session it was much more interesting for me as a regulator. So the very important. MEDREG is the association of 28 the regulatory authorities from 23 countries. And MEDREG recognized that infrastructure is the backbone of the energy transition. This is why we work to identify barriers on options to enhance students need to be very careful. Line, two ends of tube, two ends of means that investor is a huge problem because they're facing with two totally different regulatory regimes. You need to adapt, you need to face with the two problems only for one investments. It is at least two problems because transmission tube, transmission wire, sink at least to two countries. It should be 3 or 4 or 5 countries. So problem should be much more complicated. In practice, we know that this is not the only one problem. We know that the instability is, even could be even bigger. So contradictions is political, and especially during the period of the concept of regulatory risk, which is also very well known for us, having in mind that we have all information about competition between the governments, the rules, change the rules in the middle of the project. So it is a few. But to conclude, it's essential to harmonize regulatory region. In this purpose, we developed the guidelines and the recommendation to support renewable energy projects for members, but also we are open to speak with the investors because it is the same. It is the topic that is interesting for regulators and investors, and we are very open to discuss about it.
Thank you very much for this, for underlining the regulatory frameworks. Yes, cross-border cost-benefit allocations are not easy normally, but it's important to see. Then I will move to Mrs. Zoe Knight, Managing Director, Global Research HSBC, regarding the key ingredients you see as essential for attracting the private investments. And I will continue with the last round. If you still want to react to what you hear, raise your plate so I can see you in advance.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to share some thinking on this topic today to Irina. There are really three things that I want to touch on this afternoon. One is the importance of clear signals, and my colleague at the OECD highlighted the financial instruments that we can use to de-risk investment, so I won't cover that again. But I do want to highlight the example of Egypt in hosting COP29, in bringing finance to the table extensively through providing clear project term sheets that linked both to the nationally determined contribution of Egypt, but also then the national strategy, which helped investors be very clear around what the government wanted to do and where the demand would come from. And on that note, what's also particularly important is to move from just looking at a individual project to where the demand for the output of the project, whether it's hydrogen or grid, is going to come from. And one example that I want to touch on to demonstrate the potential for bringing both supply and demand together is the net zero hub in the Humber in the north of England, where the government set out very clear strategy and incentives to bring industry together, as well as plans for carbon capture and storage and energy supply, that meant that the decarbonisation plans that were set out on paper could be very actively implemented. So this piece of moving from both a strategy of growth for the topic itself, like hydrogen, versus the demand side. And then my last point to make is one of the areas that investors or policymakers outside the finance industry forget is that the competition for capital is very strong. And whilst the price of delivery of power comes down, clearly the returns are coming down as well, which means that the capital competition increases in across other sectors. And that's something to just bear in mind when we're working through projects. But so to summarize, the clear signal piece is very important, and then a greater geographical aspect of setting out term sheets on a localized basis.
Thank you very much for these insights. You mentioned also partnerships, and now I will move to the last part of this session, just to allow also you to eat something. So I will go now to George Partasides, so from Ministry of Energy. George, I stopped you when you raised your plate, but you listen, different types of view on the cooperation framework. So how do you see this cooperation framework advancing? And of course, what IRENA can do for Med9, but not only for Med9, MEFED, and also North Africa.
Thank you very much for organizing this very good initiative, and thanks for the support of IRENA, especially for the Med9 and the declaration we had in Cyprus. Indeed, all what we have here today is something that all countries are facing, and especially Cyprus as a small island with a lack of expertise and of experience in these projects. And that's why we like to be in a group of countries that they have expertise and transfer this knowledge in order for us to be able to bring to the people and understand the benefit of interconnectors, which are given a big fight inside the country to understand the benefits comparing with other options. Of course, the Cyprus Declaration in Cyprus highlighted what it has been said. In addition, the licensing procedure, which is also a very big issue when you have to cross to come to different countries, especially outside of EU, see the environmental issues that they are having in order to accommodate all this. And if we're talking to the Med region, we all know problems in the area. and how we need to harmonize and have everybody in order to be able to lay the cables, if it is natural gas, to put the pipes, and eventually be able to transfer the green hydrogen or the electricity. That's why we need organizations like IRENA, the greater knowledge, to help us develop the framework, do the studies, and be able to have common rules, especially when different regions. In closing, Cyprus is honored to contribute to this collective endeavor. Offshore renewable. In Cyprus, we have around 50 gigawatt of technical potential. We have only included 100 megawatt in our national energy climate plan. In order to, because of the economic, of course, issue, and catalyze the vision of the Mediterranean energy. Let's continue to collaborate closely, ensuring a stable, sustainable, and prosperous future for all in our shared region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George, for these insights. And now I will move to the last speaker I have on my list. If you have any views, please raise now the plate so I can see it. I think we will be 2-3 minutes late than what we see on the screen here. So, Mr. Gramenos Mastroianni, Senior Deputy Secretary General of Union for the Mediterranean. We have heard about the region, how to go from the countries to the region. So which will be your view on how to approach this cooperation?
Yes, thank you. MED9, European Commission, OCDE, IRENA, ourselves, the regulators, we're all converging on a vision that we shouldn't be shy to call a Euro-Mediterranean energy community. I claim that this vision was born inside our framework, in our platforms, etc., but that's not the important point. The important point is that things are going actually well. There is finance. We sense that there is finance behind it and things like that. But I will use my 2 minutes for a warning. We need to understand what it is that we are doing. Energy is just a chunk of a larger operation in face of the pace and magnitude of the challenge of climate change on this region. If we see a region, we discover that it is highly asymmetrical. It means that there are poor and rich. Demographic trends are going one way or the other. Faced with this, not policy, but science tells us one thing. Nobody around the Mediterranean, not even the richest, have on their own enough resources to cope with it. But if we put together those differences, even those that made us have some disputes in the past, we end up having a larger basket of solutions. In energy, it is clear, you have the sun, I have the market, you have the wind and all the rest, but it is also something that we have to do with food system, that we have to do. What is the benefit of it? Not only that it will help us tackle climate in itself better, but also that it rebalances the asymmetry. An integrated economy that comes out of creating a common system in energy, a common system in food, a common system in all the rest is a less dangerous Mediterranean in face of climate change because it's a rebalanced, an economically rebalanced Mediterranean. Now, in face of this, I need to come with my warning, which I also discussed with Mr. Kopman and things like that. Everything is there, everything is aligned, but there is one risk: bilateralism. The force of economy starts to express itself spontaneously, which is very good, but sometimes it tends to be me strong talking to you poor, me big market talking to you, and I will have to develop it. It's all very good because the market works like that. But if this is run outside a multilateral framework, and sorry to say, we are the only multilateral regional framework, there is a risk of refusal. There are barriers. Our member states are also South Shore states. We hear them. Because when you talk about energy or water, you're not only talking a commodity, you're talking sovereignty. And there is another aspect to the problem. When you talk sovereignty, you need a multilateral guarantee of things that are done. There is another aspect. We talked north-south, but an immensely important aspect of this operation is south-south. It is maybe more difficult than north-south. And again, I claim we are the only framework where these things can be discussed. But compliments for this panel. It was exceptionally interesting.
Thank you very much, and also for highlighting the risks and taking this multilateral approach towards what we carried out. I see two plates there, so Malta and but I will start here because I didn't hear the gentleman here, and 1 minute, and then I will wrap up.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Mustafa Taumi. I'm the deputy team leader for the MedGem project. The MedGem project supporting green electrons and green molecules for the development of clean energy in general in the South Mediterranean countries is an initiative funded by the EU through the DG NEAR, and that's aimed to create and operate a sustainable network by convening dialogue, convening collaborative activities between the key energy stakeholders in the region. So, from our perspective, we believe that to achieve a successful and impactful energy transition, the creation of a regional market is critical for green hydrogen, for renewable energy. So the regional approach enables countries to synergize their efforts and optimize the resources, and you ensure that the widespread of adoption of the clean energy technologies are, embedded in their strategies. So the key enablers, as we heard a lot of messages, insightful messages, the policy and regulation frameworks, how to harmonize, the regulation across the region, the infrastructure development. We have to strengthen the interconnections to access the finance, and we have also to highlight that the public-private partnership is key, and that can be a de-risk, the investment, and also, overcome the financial barriers. We have the workforce development. We heard a lot of messages coming from our distinguished speakers, but I wanted to highlight at this occasion that local manufacturing ecosystem is critical and is one of the key drivers of the energy transitions. Local manufacturing, and we did a lot of gap analysis through the region, and we have highlighted during our last steering committee meeting in Istanbul last month that local manufacturing plays a pivotal role in this ecosystem by addressing the growing demand for economic added value alongside the implementation of renewable energy and green hydrogen project. Why deploying green energy infrastructure is essential for decarbonization. It alone cannot meet the broader aspiration of countries striving for sustainable economic development through industry growth, job creation, technology transfer, and enhanced energy security. And this is, I think, for regional market can provide, a plus for the scale needed to make the local manufacturing economy viable and globally competitive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So 2 more reactions. I will start with Malta, ladies first, but really what you have, quickly react. Because we
Thank
have
you
to
very
leave the room.
much. It will be very short, don't worry. I do agree with what my colleague George said earlier, and I would like to support what was said about Med9 by underlining that the creation of Med9 and its legacy in Malta 2 years ago was in fact intended towards regional integration. About the Union for the Mediterranean, this is something very close to my heart because a few years ago, in 2008, I was the first senior official of Malta when the UFM was formed, setting up of the joint statement, the statute, Edral Bes, the Secretariat. I also agree with Gramenos that the UFM has a huge potential. I've been through it. I know how it works. And it's really, when it works, it really works well. Diplomacy is sitting around the table and listening to each other until we cannot listen anymore, but we continue listening. This is the Mediterranean, and those who live in it know it very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for concluding actually a little bit on the region. And the last, very briefly.
Yes, I'm Gianni Chianetta of the Dignity Ireland Foundation. I'd like just to bring to the attention that the beginning week of the UFM was launched the Mediterranean Sustainable Energy and Climate for a regional cooperation, for a regional strategy. Is a multi-stakeholder initiative, multilateral, as Gramenos was saying, to share, exchange best practice on technology, policy, and finance. Beyond conflict, we need to cooperate for a climate and energy security. It was launched as a first action, a call to action that was mentioned at the beginning, a call to action to government signed by more than 40 organizations that see IRENA as a partner together with the Global Renewable Alliance and the ASCAME, with that I distributing for the government to cooperate for a regional target and raise the national targets and of course, cooperate on a different level. I don't go into details, but the call, the open letter, yes, is you can download on the website of the climatedialogue.org and is distributed. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much. And with this, I'm coming to wrap up. I'm tired a little bit already, and allow you to eat something as well. So very nice. Thank you for staying with us to hear not only the grids, infrastructure, interconnectors, potential in the Mediterranean for renewables, the South-South dimension, all the enabling factors from markets to financing, to interconnectors, to green hydrogen and its derivatives. But last but not least, we should also take into account the frameworks which were created. So being MED9, being MEDFED, being African Union, being Union for Mediterranean. So the regional perspective, it's important. And of course, in order to arrive there, we have to put together not only the national perspectives, but to get into a bigger framework. Of course, this will necessitate working together with the countries, also with the industries and regulators, policymakers. Thank you very much and enjoy your lunch, what is left. I hope something is left.